Welcome to the Unstoppable Profit Podcast. Wherever you are today, if you're starting with nothing or are well on your way to the success you desire, with the right people, processes, and promotions in place, you will be unstoppable. And now, I'd like to introduce your host, Mike Stromsoe.
Greetings, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of the Unstoppable Profit Podcast. I am pumped and excited. This podcast is happening because multiples of our coaching members have pinged me and said, you need to get Joel on the podcast and talk about strategic thinking, his background, and how it relates to the business operations of the world, more specifically, the independent insurance agency business operations. Joel McKinley, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Fantastic. Glad you're here. So for those of you who may not be familiar, Joel McKinley is our director of AFY in the Unstoppable Profit Producer Program, in addition to many other duties. But really what that means, director of accountability for you. And people were clamoring for it. They wanted it. They were asking for it. They know they needed it. And we just did not have anything that was consistent, focused, and disciplined in that realm until Joel McKinley came on the team. And we're super grateful for Joel being on our team. So that position that Joel has is he's reaching out to our platinum and elite coaching members and some of our gold members as well on a regular basis to just do a quick check-in to hold them accountable. Because in the words of Stephen Covey, accountability breeds responsibility, and people want to be held responsible for what they say they want to do. The thing about entrepreneurship, as we all know, is BSOS is alive and well in our world. BSOS being the bright, shiny object syndrome. We see the latest and greatest thing. We want to run after it, attack it, and win and conquer. But we lose focus of the foundational stuff, and that's where Joel comes in. He's doing a great job checking in with people, however it works for them, whether it be email, Zoom, or just a quick phone call, and holding them accountable to the goals that they said they want to accomplish. So Joel, thank you for that. Thank you on behalf of Unstoppable Nation and the people that are living UPP life exactly in that particular realm. So thank you for that. So like I said, multiples of the Unstoppable Nation teams have responded that you need to get Joel on the podcast. I mean, some of the stuff that he's dropping on us is gold nuggets. By the way, that's one of our newest things in UPP is the gold nugget, right? So these gold nuggets, I'm going to attempt to pull some of them out of his heart and his mind and his soul this morning. But before we get started on that JFUM, which is your handle inside of UPP Nation, Joel friggin' Unstoppable McKinley, give everybody just a quick background on who you are, because you're a hero of our country, Freedom, Growth, Wealth, and Freedom, which is the newest name of our newest UPP Platinum and Elite Coaching Program. You're a freedom fighter who's put it all on the line for us. Thank you for that. So for anybody who doesn't know who you are, give us a little bit of background on who Joel McKinley is, anything you're willing to share.
Sure. So like a lot of people, I love the country. I love the freedoms that we get to enjoy. So right after high school, I joined the military right at 18 years old. I knew that's what I wanted to do when I was like 10 years old. And after, 20 years in the military, and my body just said, hey, jumping out of airplanes and doing all that crazy stuff it's taking its toll on your body. It's time for you to let these young kids do it. And so I retired 3 years ago, and I've been with UPP almost ever since I retired. You gave me this great opportunity to serve Unstoppable Nation and continue to use the experiences that I gained there. And you really found a way to pull and say, didn't you do this in the military? I said, well, yeah. And you said, well, these are business principles. This is how you help lead people and take them to the next level. And I said, well, you're right. I can totally do that. And here we are.
Exactly. So Joel's being a little humble. I'm going to pull it out of him. So one of your accomplishments while serving our country, I know that you experienced wins and lessons in becoming an Army Ranger, correct?
Correct.
So you are also a U.S. Army Ranger, grateful for that. And you have a playbook that you still refer back to in your Army Ranger times. And we're going to attempt to eke a little bit out of that and transition it to the business world. I mean, leadership principles, strategic thinking, strategic tactics, and everything. They all have the same basic principles. And that's some of the stuff that you're sharing with UPP Platinum and Elite coaching members in the AFY segments. So let's talk about that just a little bit. Go ahead and set the table for us. I mean, you know, like I said, many people came back and said, oh, this is awesome. You ought to bring him on the podcast. So what were they talking about? I'll just, feed the fire here a little bit. Goals, vision, strategic thinking, winning with strategic thinking. Go ahead.
So last week, I was on with a platinum coaching member, and he said, I'm crushing my goals. I'm knocking them off. But as soon as I knock them off the list, I forget that there's all of these supporting things that needed to be there in order to support that goal, because I didn't put those things in initially. And I started telling them, well, how are you planning? Are you just throwing goals, out there and just achieving that goal? But how are you planning for how those goals are going to impact your business? Because they are. And things are going to change as you put new things in. It's going to change the dynamic of your business. And if you're not planning for those ahead of time, you're going to be caught and you're going to be struggling. So we started talking about, I was looking at how we plan for operations in the military, and I started laying out, this is kind of how you start analyzing what we're going to do, how we're going to put it in place, and then exactly the steps that we're going to follow all the way through until completion. He said, wow, how do you go about all that? And it was one of the lessons that I learned throughout my entire career, but mainly in Ranger School, because it's called the Army's premier leadership school. But you go there and you don't sleep, you don't eat, you're moving. I mean, I lost almost 30 pounds in the first 2 weeks. And it was just one of those things. But the two things that they hit on the most are leadership and planning. So after he said that to me, I said, well, why do they focus so much on leadership and planning? When all else fails, when you're exhausted, when you're tired, when you feel like you've given 100%, you haven't. You maybe at 60%. And if your leadership skills and your planning you have boiled those down, you know them, it doesn't matter. You will be able to lead because the plan is there, your leadership skills, you will lead when you are completely exhausted. Your team will carry you that way if you are the leader that they need to be and you put the plan for them to execute.
So in that particular realm, let's talk about what if somebody who's either watching or listening to this podcast is thinking, well, I haven't quite studied leadership enough, and I don't feel from a confidence standpoint and otherwise that I'm quite the leader that I want to be yet. What would you say to them? Well,
the key word was right there, yet. But the day we stop learning is the day we stop earning, the day we stop growing. It's a constant investment in yourself to continue to get better every day. Because the minute you stop learning and trying to get better, and I will just tell you that seeing it from our platinum coaching members with the fact that they have said, this is where my leadership is, and I want to get to the next level. And they invested in themselves and they said, but I don't know what the next level looks like. I want to see what it is. And that's where, in the Army, you have leaders above you and they are training you to take their job. And when you have that person that's saying, here's how you do your job and here's how you do my job, they also move up. Well, we don't necessarily have that in, the civilian world. So what do you do? Where do you go? Where do you find this information? Well, I will tell you that watching our platinum coaching members, seeing where they start and every year investing their time with you, Mike, and just where they end, the end of the year is just like, wow, look at all you have done. You made this massive goal list and you did all of it. Or even if you fell short, look at what you did that you would not have come across had you not invested that in yourself.
So how does somebody who might be watching or listening to this podcast apply strategic thinking and winning with strategic thinking, based on what you've learned? Because the enemy's out there, right?
Absolutely.
And in the insurance agency world, the independent insurance agency world, the enemy might be competing agents, AKA the captives. And that's always our enemy. We want to beat the captive. We want to take the business from them because they're not the friends of the IA world, as has been said. So we're training leaders around us to be thinking strategically to win more. What does that look like based on what you've learned in 20 years in defending our freedom and apply it to the business world?
Well, ultimately, you have to paint the picture of where you want to go. What does that vision look like? You have to clearly, and you have to write it down and clearly define exactly what you want it to look like. You may not know how to get there. That's fine. But just paint the picture. Look around you. See other successful agents that you reach out to or that you follow. I will tell you, you happen to be on a podcast with one of them that you've been following. What did he accomplish? What did he do? What did that look like? How has he created that freedom to live life on his own terms? What did that look like in creating that? You want to get there? Great. Now, where am I right this minute, right now? Okay, now let's start putting the pieces together. In order to get to this destination, I know where I need to get to. Now let's start putting those steps into place with what, alliances do I need to make? Who do I need to get with in order to get to that point?
So surrounding yourself with the 5 people, the 5 right people, not the 5 wrong people who are going to support you in accomplishing that. So really at the end of the day, what I'm hearing is it starts with goals and knowing your destination's all you need to get there. And you should ink them, not just think them. So they're in a position where you can be held accountable. And you want to grow up leaders around you. And that's a whole transition within the second P, which starts with the recruiting all the way up to building up leaders around you. And to an extent, you want to be the dumbest person in the room, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So inking them, not thinking them, meaning your goals, building the accountability. And then vision is the art of seeing things that other people can't see. So you've got the goals, you've got the vision. And so now we want to build in strategic thinking. How did you think about, you've got the enemy out there. You served our country. How many times have you been to the Middle East?
Five to the Middle East and then Afghanistan.
Okay. Well, a lot of times in the Middle East. And it really involved, I'm sure, and you made it back home and the strategic plan. And I just happen to know this from, getting to know you better and a lot of other military people. Your goal is to make sure everybody comes back alive. And wasn't that your goal when you took out to that battlefield?
Absolutely. 100%, Mike. I didn't care, honestly, it's not trying to, build myself up. I didn't care what happened to me. It didn't matter. But I said, no matter what, I will bring all of my boys home. No matter what, my boys are coming home. And, I know the story that you're thinking about, and it didn't matter where we were. When we went out the gate, I was constantly, and it was nonstop. My brain was on like a hamster wheel going 1,000,000 miles an hour. And I was constantly looking, okay, I know myself. I know my guys. I know what we're all capable of. And I was constantly saying, if I were the enemy, how would I beat me? Where are my weaknesses? How can I tie those up so that I don't have any weaknesses? How can I remove those? I know what they bring and they can hurt me with, and I know what I'm weak against. So how can I defend myself? How can I make sure that we are always protected, that my boys are always good, and that we are always ready to move forward? Because just like when you're agency business, it's all about Bob. You got to protect Bob. I protected my boys. You got to protect Bob. It's the same thing. Just like Mike has been telling me since the beginning, business principles are business principles. It's all about success and continuing to move forward. So that's what we do all the time.
Absolutely. It's the only direction, if you just sit there, you're going to get run over, according to Will Rogers. So we don't want that for anybody. So it's about the goals. It's about the vision. It's about the strategic thinking and the plan. And ultimately, at the end of the day, defeating the enemy. So something you just said about the weaknesses and maybe even the strengths. So there's an exercise called a SWOT program, which is a basic business foundation for successful companies. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So in a sense, in defeating the enemy, in defending our freedom, you were always looking to build on the strengths of your units and your entire organization, compounding on the weaknesses of the enemy, so to speak. So let's transition that to the IA side, the independent insurance agency side. It's the situation, it's the mission, it's the execution of all of that. Talk more about how you've learned to transition that to relating to helping business leaders in the IA game.
Sure. So we plan with 5 paragraphs. It's really, really simple. You can get very, very detailed with it, or you could just give the basics. But it starts with the situation, because you have to know where you are. You have to analyze yourself, what's going on in your agency, the marketplace, what are your competitors doing. You have to be able to look at what sort of attachments can we have. Are there vendors that we can bring in that can help us? Are there COIs that we could bring in that help us? What are our referral partners doing for us? Once you create that and you identify where you are, where your enemy or your obstacles may be, and you figure all that out and you start kind of game planning and you start creating courses of action, and you do your own risk assessment and say, okay, if we go with this course, here's our potential risks and here's our potential successes. And then from that, you get with your leadership team and you kind of go through and say, okay, here's the risks, here's our potential course of action. What do you guys think? What do we think is best? What is best for Bob? Great. Okay, here's the mission that we're going to go with. Here's the intent. You as the visionary of your agency, here's what we want to happen. And you brief that to your entire team. So now your team, it's beautiful. When your team knows what you want to happen and you have given them this clearly defined, here's where we want to go with this goal. They can ask themselves one of two things. Is what I'm doing right now supporting the visionary's intent? Yes, keep doing it and go 100%. No, stop what you're doing. Fix it. Do it the right way. Do it the way that's going to take care of Bob and take care of all of us, because they're a part of your agency. All right, then you go into the execution. All right, you know what the visionary wants to have happen, and you just lay it out. Here's where we are. Here's the next step, and you lay it out perfectly from beginning all the way to end. And the great thing is, if something happens, you still know where you want to get to. You just take a turn, you go around. It's a detour. No big deal. You know where you're going. And just like Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face.
Amen.
No big deal. When you get punched in the face, guess what? Move your head and then keep going forward. No big deal. Nobody died. We get to move on. So then you go into the sustainment paragraph. What supplies do we need? What things do we need to bring in to support making this happen? And that could be, new headsets for your team so that they can work more efficiently because their hands are free. It could be little things like that, but you start to identify those things so that you're not waiting. Oh, I'm waiting on this one thing to come in order to make this happen. Like your welcome kit. If you don't have that golden rod of paper, it's going to do some great things for you. But if you don't have a supply of that, you need to get it. And then it's just the command and control paragraph. Who's reporting to who? Who's going to hey, Mike, we're good. This is what we, this is done. Great. And he can continue to move things forward as the leader and as the visionary. Or if Mike says, you know what, I've got the freedom, I can delegate this to one of my team. They can be in charge of implementing this for the agency. Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's the 3-prong effect, if you will. And we believe greatly in the power of 3: simplicity. In this particular case, where you've been, where you are now, where have you been up to where you are now, and ultimately where you're going. And in the where you are now segment, you got to inspect what you expect. So how often did you, in the military realm, in defeating the enemy, okay, so to speak, how often did you inspect what you expected, and how important is training, and how often did you train?
Well, Mike, you constantly inspect what you expect. We do inspections before, during, and after an operation to make sure that we're still ready for the next thing, because there's always going to be a next thing. Like watching our implementer of the year prepare for his implementer of the year speech, which he won. He was in there rehearsing when nobody else was in there, and he wasn't rehearsing, just kind of talking. He was going live, full volume. He was doing all of that. And guess what? He also went to Ranger School just like me. Success leaves clues, right? But success does not, those clues are not the answer. You still have to do the work. You still have to put it in. I would say that this way of planning is ingrained in his mind, and he may not even realize he's doing it. It's just in there already. That's why he won twice.
Success leaves clues, but does not give the answers.
Doesn't give you the answer.
I love that. It's true. Success leaves clues, but it doesn't give you the answers. Only action, only wins and lessons give you the true answers that make you who you become. And it's that journey of going through that makes it who you become. I mean, case in point, a couple of things come to mind very quickly. One, our teammate Tapatio and myself got into a very impromptu interview yesterday with a potential high-performing team member to support the agents, the agents of Unstoppable Nation. I wasn't expecting it at all. It was like way out of left field. Boom, there it was. But because of the preparation and doing it, in the words of Michael Gerber, doing it again over years, I was ready for the interview without any notes. And the interview went extremely well because of that preparation. Again, not touting myself, but it's that, work and doing it again and preparing yourself to be ready for any situation that comes across your path. You've got to continue to do the training. Absolutely. The other thing that comes to mind based on something you just mentioned, you mentioned welcome kits, which is the welcoming of a brand new client to your business and making them feel love bombed, as we say. Goldenrod paper, both the sweet strategic effect of both online and offline. But in working with a high performing platinum member recently, we also learned that platinum member thought that they needed to do multiple welcome videos in our strategy. Should we share that with them today only?
Just this once.
Okay, just this once. Yeah. So we shared with that member, hey, you need to make it evergreen. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, you don't plan on welcoming a new person or family or business to your agency more than once or twice. They're not going to be looking at this more often. So just make it evergreen, do it once and just make it good and just let it rip and then move on to creating something else that's going to cause that effect of over 2 years of a welcome kit series. Let's get back to helping IAs through strategic thinking and winning with strategic thinking and defeating the enemy, in this case, competing captive agents per se. So what else? What else have you learned that you're actually sharing with agents in the AFY realm that's helping them? Can you think of a couple examples?
I mean, Mike, there's a ton. Ultimately, when you talk about silently waiting to be led, I remember as a very young soldier, 18 years old, and I would look at my leaders and I would be like, man, he's so good. When somebody needs an answer, they go right to him. How does he know these things? And I started to think that it was because of the schools that they had, the Ranger schools, the drill sergeant school. And I started putting these on my goal list. At 18 years old, I still have it written down, but these were my goals. And because I wanted to be like them, I thought in order to get to that next level, I just had to do the same things that they did. And it wasn't necessarily going to those schools, but it was the process of getting myself, number one, to be able to be selected in order to get into that school, but then to ultimately graduate and then apply what I learned. That was the process of being able to become the leader that inspired me as a young man, and then in order to carry that on forward. So it's that process of continuing to learn and continuing to get better.
Wow. So you had if you will, a life destination goal that you inked. Don't think it, ink it, right? When you were roughly 18 years old and you knew exactly where we were going.
Mike, I will tell you, it's very much like the PX3 books that we encourage our platinum coaching members to use for their teams to say, what do you want to achieve? And my leader asked me that. And I said, well, I want to do these things. And he was like, you're just an 18-year-old kid. You're not going to get to those things. And I said, but they're on my goal list. I will. And I achieved every single thing that was on that list because I wrote it down. Commitment
is the thing you said you're going to do long after the mood you set it in has passed, right? I'm thinking back to my early days of goal setting and planning and inking it, not thinking it. And I too inked something that I wanted to accomplish. And I actually went as far as to ink the age that I was going to be when I accomplished it. And the thing that I brought up at our most recent boot camp, a very high accomplishment in my life, I inked that I was going to be the age I am right now when that happened. Isn't that crazy?
That's awesome.
When you plan that kind of monumental event in your life way back when, and you keep your eyes and your mind and your heart focused on that big hairy, audacious goal or BHAG. And it's just amazing how it happens. And now the tipping point is in full effect. It's all rolling downhill for the benefit of people in Unstoppable Nation and beyond. And we can't wait. We're all in with both feet. So what are some of the, what's a great recommendation that you have for anybody? You continue to work with these high achieving agents through giving them consistency and focus and discipline in their world through accountability. What's some of the results that you're seeing through effectively enforcing this, and pick out a couple of other strategies that you're observing through your AFYC?
First of all, Mike, I will tell you that observing all of our platinum coaching members, or at least the vast majority of them, your entrepreneurial minds work so fast and you have such big goals that they don't even realize they're achieving everything that they're achieving, because they achieve something, but it's not the next level yet. And when you sit down with them at the end of the year and you say, you've done all of these things, they're like, no, I really haven't done very much. And I'm like, here's your list. And they're like, wow, I really have done a lot, because you guys are constantly just craving that success and achievement. And it's no wonder that our platinum coaching members are the top 3% of all independent agents in all of North America.
Absolutely. And thank you for contributing to that. And we're not going to let them rest, are we?
Absolutely not.
Never. Never get, we learned from Rudy Rudiger at boot camp when he spoke of the movie Rudy. Rudy said, never giving up lasts for the rest of your life. So game on, here we grow. So, you know, and I heard you say recently, who signed up to be mediocre, right?
So Mike, I was a drill sergeant. I was blessed to be a drill sergeant for 3 years. I loved that job. Even though we're working 100 hours per week.
Why did you love that job?
Because you get to take them from, I'm a civilian, I just raised my hand and said, I want to join the military. And then when you let them go, they're a soldier. Like, you've took them from, I know nothing, to I can now function in a unit and carry on what my country expects me to do. And it was just an amazing transformation. I loved, so rewarding, such a wonderful job. I loved it.
Awesome. So people don't sign up to be mediocre. What would you suggest?
So Mike, I mean, I trained about 5,000 people in that 3 years. And I asked every single cycle, because a lot of times when guys have been in the Army for a long time, they just kind of develop this mediocre attitude. And I wanted to know why. Where did it come from? So I would always ask the new recruits, because it wasn't there. I said, who signed up to be mediocre? It's exactly the response we got. I said, now who signed up? They wanted to be like this version of Rambo and Commando. You just wanted to step foot in the enemy's country and they would automatically surrender because you were the best trained soldier the world had ever seen. And all of their hands, excited, would fly up in the air and they were just ready to go. I said, okay, don't let it change. I said, from this day forward, every single morning when you wake up and look in the mirror of truth, remember this kid right now and don't ever let him down. And guess what? The message is exactly the same for you independent agents. When you first started your agency from scratch, when you first took over a legacy agency, or when you worked in the agency and you purchased it when the owner retired, did you want to be mediocre? Of course not.
No.
So don't let that person down that first started, that was so excited. And if you don't know how to take your agency from right here to the next level, to where you are defeating that lizard every single day, they never stand a chance, and you don't know how to get there, it's too easy. Join UPP Fast Start. Get in contact with us. You can email me directly, joel@upplife.com. Ask me, I will put you in touch. Get yourself a coach to show you how to take your agency from right here to where you are the lizard slayer.
Absolutely. And since you brought it up, UPP Fast Start is something that Joel McKinley also assists agents with. It's an entry-level 6-hour, 1-day session to learn all about the 3 Ps, people, processes, and promotion in its entirety. It gives you a really good insider look at everything that we offer independent insurance agencies to grow their business, create wealth, and to have more freedom. In addition to that, you help get people into Be Unstoppable Bootcamp. The upcoming Be Unstoppable Boot Camp is going to be off the charts. The seats are flying off the availability list faster than we can keep up with. So beunstoppablebootcamp.com. Great stuff there. So director of AFY, UPPFastStart.com, liaison, and Be Unstoppable Bootcamp liaison and key player as well. Thank you, Joel McKinley, for all of that. So as we wrap it up today, any last words?
Yeah. So Mike, you know, you just recently started the UPP Life 365.
Right.
And Mike, I couldn't sleep last night because I was sitting here and my mind was just going with, how can I take these experiences that I have and how can I help UPP Nation more? And I'm grateful for you, because if it wasn't for you and all that you've mentored and trained me over the years that I've been blessed to work with the UPP family, I don't know. Who knows? I might be at McDonald's. I might be working in your agency right now as your CSR. Who knows? But I think I'd be more on the sales side. But I'm just blessed and truly grateful for you and all of your mentorship and coaching and teaching, for all that you have done for me personally and professionally, as well as all of the UPP Nation, and watching their growth is truly just absolutely amazing.
Well, there's a lot to that. And thank you for doing what you do. You're entirely welcome. But 86% of all success is showing up. So unless you show up, nothing's going to happen. And then it starts with a decision and action. And you made a decision to show up. You've taken massive action. And bigger than that, you're extremely coachable. And bigger than that, you've got an arsenal of 20 years in a leadership chair at the highest honor, which is defending the freedom that we're so privileged to enjoy in the greatest country in the world. So thank you for all of that. Thank you for sharing everything that you've become so far with Unstoppable Nation. We can't wait for the future, because we're going big. We certainly are never going to go home. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
All right. Joel McKinley, thank you. I wanted to take this moment because of all the massive feedback that I've got from people in the AFY realm, which is accountability for you, which is just one of the chairs that Joel sits on as part of our UPP team, helping independent insurance agents. And if this is your first time on the podcast, welcome. Just let you know a little bit. My name is Mike Stromsoe. I'm widely recognized as a leading author, speaker, and coach for the independent insurance agency industry. You can find me at unstoppableprofitproducer.com, and you can find Joel there as well. If you're interested in attending a virtual or live event to learn to grow your business, create wealth, and to have more freedom to live life on your terms, as we already talked about, our virtual event page is UPPFastStart.com. And if you want to attend one of our live events, like so many have, and have the life-changing events occur right at the event, our live event page is beunstoppablebootcamp.com. That's beunstoppablebootcamp.com. Both events are designed to share with you some of our best money-making strategies developed over 35 years of research in your industry to help you grow your business, create wealth, so you can have more freedom to live life on your own terms. These proven strategies are what we share within Unstoppable Nation, and our high-achieving members continue to share. Again, if this is your first podcast, welcome. Go to unstoppableprofitpodcast.com. Make sure you subscribe. We're out there on all the channels as well, Google, Stitcher, and the rest. We're there. Just go to the Unstoppable Profit Podcast. And if you want to see the visual that's going on right this moment, go to YouTube and simply search Unstoppable Profit Producer. Go to the video section. All of our visual product, at least the last 60 to 70 podcasts, are there visually as well. So we are grateful and honored and fortunate to be able to share with the independent agency world proven strategies surrounding the simple 3-step blueprint called the 3 Ps: people, processes, and promotion. And we deliver it to you so you can implement it and customize it within your own agency business to experience the growth, wealth, and freedom. Joel McKinley, thank you so much for being on the podcast, continuing to change people's lives personally and professionally, impacting people's lives. And thank you for the impact that you've made on our nation and our world. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, everybody. Until next time, get out there, make a decision, take action. And while doing that, you're going to make a difference, be unstoppable, leave no regrets. We'll see you on the next episode. Be unstoppable, everybody. Have a great day. Thanks, Joel.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you for listening. If you would like to listen to more episodes or share this podcast with someone you care about, please visit www.unstoppableprofitpodcast.com. Now go out and make a difference. Be unstoppable and leave no regrets.